When I first noticed Mike walking toward me, I sensed something was off. His smile looked practiced, almost manufactured, if you will, as if confidence were being worn rather than felt. There was a tension in his eyes that didn't match his enthusiasm. I remember thinking, whatever he was about to ask me could have consequences. I was a co-leader of a divorce care recovery group at the time. Mike attended after a marriage that had gone rapidly south, largely due to unspoken expectations. He was doing the work, or at least he appeared to be doing the work. Then he came up to me. CJ, I'm getting married. What? To Sarah? From the group? He nodded. We've been helping each other through the program. We talk every night. Oh, we eat dinner together. We're in love.
Danger, Will Robinson.
I reminded him that they had known each other for only 7 weeks and that we encouraged people not to start new relationships for 12 months so they could fully recover, go through the entire program. He listened, but he didn't slow down. We've been recovering together, he said. It's working for us. Yeah, sure it is. Then he leaned in and asked if I would stand up for them at the wedding. Wow, I was surprised. I cared about Mike and Sarah and wanted the best for him, well, for them. At the same time, I sensed he was trying to outrun his grief rather than heal from it. Sometimes we do that. We avoid things by getting busy with other things. After a lot of thought, I agreed, but with one condition. I told him that if in 6 months he realized the marriage was a mistake, he would come back to me and allow me to help him work toward reconciliation instead of divorce. He agreed without hesitation. He even said it was why I would make the perfect best man. 6 months later, Mike approached me again. He told me he was getting a divorce. I suggested we immediately start a reconciliation program, but he declined. He had already filed. He explained that if he divorced quickly, the marriage could be annulled, no child support, no alimony. The court date was set. He simply wanted me to know. Then he walked away, adjusting his path toward a woman who had caught his eye. I turned and walked in the opposite direction. At the time, I wasn't angry. What stayed with me was something quieter. Clarity. You see, Mike hadn't forgotten our agreement. He had simply stopped honoring it once it no longer served him. That realization lingered, and over time I began to notice a pattern in his life. Sometimes the same pattern in all of our lives. You see, as I reflected on that experience, I began seeing the same dynamic everywhere, at home, at work, in leadership, and in partnerships, everywhere. There are few things more exhausting than trying to live up to expectations you never agreed to. It isn't just frustrating, it's downright unfair. And it becomes even more painful when those expectations were never spoken, yet somehow we're judged for failing to meet them. This happens when we live under silent contracts. One person operates from a mental checklist. I thought you'd handled that. I assumed you knew the deadline mattered. I expected more initiative. I thought you cared. Ooh, ouch. The other person operates from a different script. No one told me. That was never discussed. I would have done it differently if I had known. I didn't realize that was the priority. Both people may be sincere, both may be committed, But without shared expectations, commitment alone isn't enough. Resentment begins quietly, long before anyone can name it. As time went on and as my curiosity deepened, I noticed that many expectations are formed by one of two desires: efficiency or effectiveness. Efficiency values speed, output, and momentum. Effectiveness values quality, care, and impact. Both matter, both are necessary, yet they pull in opposite directions. You see, when efficiency dominates, things move quickly. Boxes get checked off, progress looks good on paper, but nuances fade. Communication shortens. People begin to feel like tools rather than partners. When effectiveness dominates, it's the other direction. Care increases. Empathy deepens. Quality improves. But time slips away. Deadlines drift. Momentum slows. Frustrations build. Especially for those responsible for the results. Neither approach is wrong. The problem arises when one person expects efficiency while another is pursuing effectiveness, and no one really talks about it. That's when the problem peaks out. Without conversation, disappointment is almost inevitable. What became increasingly clear to me, thinking through all of this, was that balance doesn't happen by accident. It has to be negotiated. Healthy relationships, personal or professional, depend on three shared understandings: what is expected, what a win looks like, and what failure looks like. Without these, people can be fully committed and still completely misaligned. In business, this shows up as missed deadlines, rework, or frustration that seems to come out of nowhere. In personal relationships, it shows up as an emotional distancing, or recurring arguments, or the phrase, "you should just know." No one should have to decode expectations like a puzzle. Clear expectations aren't controlling. They're kind. A year after Mike's second divorce, he invited me to speak with his leadership team at his business during a major business expansion. He believed the communication challenge he experienced personally might apply professionally. So he gathered his leaders together, and in the room, we shared expectations. They were open, they discussed it, they talked about what the pros and cons, they negotiated it. The atmosphere shifted. It was strong, it was good, it was all headed in the right direction. People realized that no one's expectations were born from bad intentions, only from different pressures and priorities. But when Mike stepped back in, his expectations stopped sounding like agreements and started sounding like conclusions. He wasn't looking for alignment, he wanted endorsement. That moment clarified something else for me. Expectations stop working the moment they stop being shared. When expectations become demands, collaboration collapses. Over time, I learned that Mike's business didn't survive the expansion. Decisions were made that no one felt ownership of. Trust eroded, the company failed. I also learned he divorced again. That's right, he got married and divorced yet again, blaming circumstances and other people or whatever it was. The pattern was hard to ignore. Unspoken expectations don't just damage relationships, they drain trust. They erode the collaboration. They quietly undermine everything they touch. People don't usually leave marriages, teams, or companies because expectations were too clear. They leave because expectations were never agreed to, or worse, rewritten after the fact. What I've learned and continue to explore is this. Clear expectations don't limit people, they liberate them. They replace guessing with confidence, resentment with alignment, and frustration with action. Some kind of forward movement. The question I now ask myself personally and professionally is this. Where am I expecting something that I've never actually agreed upon with the other person? You see, a conversation doesn't guarantee agreement, but without one, we almost surely guarantee disappointment, because it isn't fair in business or in life to expect someone to live up to standards they never agreed to.